Hello, welcome back to Golden Tragedy. I'm Elliot. It's so good to see you again. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about call. I don't know how long this video will be. Hopefully it will only be 10-12 minutes. Excuse me, coffee sip. But I think that we've started talking about going to seminary and learning about ourselves as we move towards seminary, and I think that it's unfair to talk to you about that without also talking about this idea of call and vocation that are often thrown around in and at seminaries. And so I just think that it's more fair if maybe we start with call. If you're watching this and you're like, we haven't talked about what it's like to go to seminary yet, then there's another video for that coming. I filmed that yesterday and I'm about to go edit it, but I just think that we need to talk about call first. So often in seminarial workings, in divinity courses, they'll talk about the idea of call or the idea of vocation. And it doesn't matter what strand of Christianity you're in, you will talk about vocation and about call. How did you meet God? What is God calling you to do? Because God is formless. God is not genderable. And where is that leading you? What sounds like it's going to be your sort of working in the world with God? And this can be hard, especially if you're in college or straight out of college and you don't know what you're going to do with your life, to know what your call is, especially when it seems like people that are called for their whole lives. They're not called, vocations seem like they're lifelong. They're not things that you can just give up tomorrow, or you can't change vocations. You're constantly struggling through them. And if you've ever taken an early church class or a church history class, especially an early church class, you will talk about martyrdom as a vocation or mysticism as a vocation. And those are not jobs. Those do not pay well. One of those leads you to death. So these, we talk about vocation in a very complicated way. And I think that people are then like, well, how are you called? That's not helpful, because I think God calls us to lots and lots of different spaces within our lives. And that comes through in many, many different ways. So let's say you've been called to be a mystic. One of the big things that mystics do, sorry, I have a crystal that I'm playing with. One of the big things that mystics do is heal spaces. That can be a faith space, that can be like an actual physical space, that can be a community, that can be a conversation. All of those are very valid ways for mystics to heal spaces, right? Coffee sip. But how do you do that? Sometimes a mystic is a pastor. Other times they're just a lay person. Sometimes they're a monastic. There's no good concrete way. So I think that call really requires a lot of discernment. And discernment is hard because it requires not only knowing God, but also being able to hear and follow God. And when I say hear, I mean that sort of in two senses. Firstly, I mean it definitely in the mystical, like, are you hearing God? Is God talking to you as he spoke to Samuel? When in 1 Samuel 2, he says, Samuel, 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 where art thou? And Samuel responds, here I am, Lord. Other times, it is simply God providing in a way that we didn't think was possible. For instance, in my own story, or not my own story, in my own sense of call, I was called to go to seminary, and it didn't look like it was going to happen. And all of a sudden, God opened doors that by no other means should have been open. That's sort of a sense of call. And that's a very clear clinical sense of call from, it's that whole hindsight is 2020. Here's Elliot in the now being able to say, here's a moment of call within my own personal life. And very possibly you will not be able to hear that sense of call in the moment. Like, it's not going to be that cut and dry. This is where you're supposed to be for this next season of life. Yes, I had if we're talking about call also in full honesty, I had another one of those moments today where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. I don't know how this is going to work. And all of a sudden I got an email saying that I was getting a credit of $900 for my school. That should not have happened in my own personal finances, but it did because of the providence of God. Yeah, I have a lot of gratitude for that. I'm not coming on here to be boisterous. I feel very grateful for that provision from God. But I think the providence of God is a good way to track your call. Where has God provided for you? Where has God provided for you? And in what areas, and what does that lead you to next? And then also, what are you passionate about? What are you passionate about? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where is home gonna be? Like, what space is home? Do you feel the presence of God most in a parish church? Do you see God most in college students? Do you find and hear your voice most in elderly people? Are you searching for God in the migrant worker? There's 1,000 places that you can find God, but often God is calling us to one place. He's saying, you see me most here, and for this time, I need you here. I think that this idea of vocation as a lifelong, never-changing, always stay static ideal is very dangerous for us, because we don't allow for these sort of I'm bringing it back to the thing that I would explain later, and I promise I'm going to explain it later, but it continues to bring us back to these cycles of Exodus, exile, and theophany. God is always calling us out of where we are, asking us to stay momentarily in a place of desert, in a place of unknowing, and then he's revealing himself to us. We are always in this cycle. We never know God fully. We are never allowed to be comfortable as Christians. That's not how it works. So call is this constant monotony, this constant cycle of Exodus, exile, theophany, and then breathing into the life of others because of this cycle. Now, I also now have to say, sorry for all this jitteriness, I now also have to say that in order to fulfill call and also be in this cycle constantly, there's a lot of self-care that has to happen, right? Because you can't bridge from an empty cup to an empty cup, right? You need to bridge from a full cup to an empty cup. And often, when we're in this cycle of Exodus, exile, theophany, we have empty cups because we don't know. And unknowing is a lot. It's a lot. It takes a lot from us. Mind, heart, and body. And so it requires a lot of self-care. Are you eating? Are you drinking water? Are you sleeping well? Are you exercising well? Like, you need to be able to be a fully healthy person, which I know that for so many young people, I mean, so many people in general, but so many young people especially, is very, very hard. Yes. So, all that being said, this cycle of Egypt, Sinai, Jerusalem, constantly is calling us to a ministerial place, to breathe in life into others, right? The greatest part of worship is that we are being invited into the act of a triune God, or into the life of a triune God, to participate in the action of creation. That is the greatest part of worship. So all things that we do as Christians are worship of God, living this life with God. So call, therefore, is also living this life of God, but in a ministerial sense. So you are being asked, how are you finding God? Where are you finding God, and how are you breathing back into the creation God has made? Yeah. I hope this clarified call and finding call. If you have questions about call, or you just want to talk in a safe space about what you're being called to and what that feels like, and whether it's been hard or easy, I invite you to leave comments below. I will leave a couple of articles and Amazon links to books that have really helped me in my finding of call. I hope that whatever you're going through, whatever period in this cycle you are in, that God finds you and he breathes life into your heart, and that you are allowed to have a moment of joy and gratitude. Excuse me. So, my loves, that is all from me today. Keep on keeping on. I hope that so much joy fills your life. Yeah. Like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all so very soon. Bye.